Hi, this is Laura Wansick, and I'm so excited to be sharing a technique that I tried out with these art crayons. So one of my favorite techniques is to take a glossy photo, an enlarged glossy photo, and put a really bold title on it. And so typically the way that I'm doing that is with alpha stamps and stays-on ink, or sometimes pigment ink depending on how well it dries. But I really like playing with these art crayons and coloring them directly onto stamps and making kind of my own pattern. So I took this scrap photo that I used, it was a misprint, to just kind of test it out, and then I let it dry overnight. And it turned out really well. I really like kind of there's like a, sorry, I'm holding my baby. She's fussy. It leaves this kind of cool texture. And I really, again, like that I can kind of create patterns with the letters themselves. So the first thing that I do is I take these strips of paper to kind of plot out the spacing for the title. So I wrote the title there on that Post-it, and then I kind of figured out, okay, what's the center of each line? And then I work from the middle out. So trying to remember what the first line is. She's. So S-H-E-S. So then the middle is going to be between H and E. And so then I'm going to start on either the H or the E and then move left and right so that I know that it's all going to be centered. And I use those pieces of paper to make sure that they're straight as I'm going down. And so this is a technique that I do a lot because, again, I like these bold titles. This is an alpha stamp from Future Craft. I like this alphabet, and it created, since it's a thick alphabet, it creates a lot of room for me to kind of create some pattern on the stamps. Now, I learned a few things in this process. One of the things that I learned is that you have to be really careful about how much you wet the stamp. So there were a couple times where I got it too wet, and I actually used Q-tips to absorb some of the wetness before it dried. Thankfully, these take a while to dry, so you have time to kind of correct it. And Q-tips are a nice precision absorbing tool for something just like this. So see, I'm starting there with the H, and then I'm going to move outward. And then I just remove the strips. There I'm using, I think that first one I had too much wetness, and I'm sorry that there's glare on that glossy paper there. I'm working on getting better lighting. It's hard with these really glossy photos. So I love rainbows, and so I often do rainbow themed color schemes. So I did that here. It started at the top with kind of the red and the pink, and then the orange and the yellow, and so forth on the way down. And I'm mixing within each letter the red and the pink, and then the next line kind of mixing the orange and the yellow within each letter. And when you spray it then with water before you stamp it, because that's the technique, so you're going to color directly onto the stamp with the art crayon, then spray the stamp with like a little mister. I sprayed about maybe 6 inches away from it 1 or 2 times. You just kind of have to eye it. And then, so when you spray it and then you stamp it, the colors are going to mix with each other. So they don't stay exactly how you drew them on the crayon, but they kind of fall into a pattern. And again, I really like the way that it looks. It's like this cool little pattern within each letter. And I use that Q-tip a lot because there were lots of times where it was a little bit wetter than I wanted it to be. I couldn't quite, I think by the end I kind of figured it out, but a lot of this is experiment and kind of figuring this out. This is a quote of something my daughter said about her baby sister, which is something, again, that I do a lot, is little quotes of things she says. I'll put them on a photo of the two of them. And in terms of the photo itself, a lot of times what I'll do is take a photo, and there at the bottom, I was worried that some of the crayon and water was going to get splashed onto the photo, so I covered it with some white cardstock there. But I'll take a photo of them, and then if it's up against a colored, like a white wall or something, I'll extend it in Photoshop so that it can be a 6x12 or 12x12 or larger using the clone stamp tool. And there's a video about how to do that on my YouTube channel if you're interested. Because that originally was just, I think it stopped right above her head. And I like the contrast of the black and white and the rainbow. And then I just use some Stays On ink to do the quotes there in the quotation marks in black. And then I just wrote, I think, that my daughter's name, that she had said it. So I really like how this one turned out. Definitely try it, see, experiment with distance and spraying and how much wetness. But you can definitely use these art crayons on glossy photo paper, so don't be afraid. Go experiment.